Well, like I've said, my mom was sick a lot, but she did a lot of work, even if she was sick. I would remember, I liked it so well when I was in bed in the morning on Mondays, and she would have the washing machine going in the kitchen, and I would listen to that boom, 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 and it was so comforting to me. I liked it so well. But my mom was very quiet, it seemed, because I do not remember a lot of what she said. I know I'd remember her walking around the room, doing dishes, ironing, whatever the job was. She was always working, I think. I never remember seeing her laying down. So I'm not sure. You know, she died when I was so young that for only 8 years or 9, whatever it was, is all I had her around. Yeah, evidently both of them were very good. I don't think my mother was one that would ever scold a lot or get after me for anything. So I think I had a very good relationship with both. I would say all during school, I think my favorite one was English. And I loved writing stories. And, you know, when we had to write our own something or poems, I liked to write poems too. But I think that was my best subject of all. Well, I felt like I was a friend to most all of them when I was smaller, and we got along good in school, no fighting or anything that I can remember. I don't remember any. You know, I remember once in school, this red-haired, freckled boy, I think he sat right in front of me. And I don't know what happened, but he wet his pants, and it just went all over the floor. And I remember some of the kids were snickering and laughing, and I felt so bad for him. But the teacher handled it real good. She just told the boy that was all right and that he could leave, and either she helped him or, unless she sent him to the principal's office, somebody that would help clean him up. And I felt so bad for him, but he came back the next day good, and nobody said anything. I think the teacher gave us a little talk about it, if I remember correctly. You know, I think the one I remember first is the kidnapping of the, what was that guy's name, Lindbergh? Lindbergh, he was, what was he now? He was well known, and I can't remember right now if he was in the service or what it was. But I remember hearing that his child was kidnapped, and I think it upset our whole neighborhood. It just seemed like the parents were so careful of their kids after that for a long while. But I don't know where it even happened. I guess I thought it was right in Sioux Falls, but I don't think it was. Charles Lindbergh. Now, what was he? I don't remember. Probably our hairdos, but I don't remember much about ever changing mine. But maybe I tried to a little bit. Maybe if I got older, like a teenager, then I probably tried to change my hairdo. I don't know, maybe whatever we wore. I'm not sure when I started wearing slacks, because when I was small, we always wore dresses. So I'm not sure. Maybe when slacks became popular, then I wore them too. I don't know. Or in the lower grades, we just wore them. I don't know if it was my dad that said that or who. I just remember we wore dresses, and I do not remember when I changed over and maybe was allowed to wear slacks. Well, you know, when I think of it, I think it was not until my freshman year in high school that I remember we could wear slacks. Now, whether it was earlier and I didn't get to or what, I don't remember that. But I will tell you one thing. After my mother died, I don't know, I imagine it was up to my dad to see that the washing was done or something. But I remember one morning I was getting ready for school, and I could not find any tan or brown long stockings to put on. And it was cold out. And my dad found me a pair of black stockings, and I did not want to wear those black stockings. But I think I had to. But it seemed like when I got away from the house and toward the school, I rolled them way down to the bottom, and I suppose I was darn cold. Probably Lorraine, my older sister. Eileen and I would fight quite a bit, but not when we were smaller, I don't think. Not when my mom was still living. That was more when we got up to the teenage that we would fight. 'Cause she was always sneaking my clothes, my clean anklets, or my blouse, or whatever it was, and I'd get so mad about it. But other than that, we just got along as best we could. But I think Lorraine always more or less looked out for me. And when I went places, or when she was going places, she would usually offer to take me with. Eileen wouldn't want me to go. If she was going somewhere, she didn't want me tagging after her. And of course, my brothers, they were both very good to me, but I don't think they ever wanted me with them either. But Lorraine always would. She might have, I'd have no idea. I think we walked most of the time. I've got some stories about going to the schools. You want me to tell you? I started out going to Mark Twain. I think I went my kindergarten and maybe my first grade there. And then we must have moved out on 41st and Western. So that day, when we were going to school, my sister Eileen and I had to walk quite a long ways east on 41st Street to South Sioux School. And I don't know what it was. I know I didn't like the kids there. We had our lunch pails, which were syrup, Karo syrup pails, the smaller ones, not the big gallon ones. But that's what we carried our lunch in. And I'm not sure if the kids teased me, or I would have thought they probably used the same kind. I don't know. But at noon, I said to my sister, Eileen, I'm going home. I won't go to this school. I don't know where I got the nerve to say that, because I was a shy person. But I did. I said, I'm going home. And she said, well, you can't walk alone. I said, I'm going home. I'm not going to this school. So she knew she had to walk with me. So we walked home, and I told well, I don't know. Yeah, I think my mother was still alive probably then. Otherwise, my grandma and grandpa were home, and maybe my dad, because I said, I'm not going back to that school. I don't like it. So then, my dad seemed to think that was all right. If I didn't like it and the kids weren't good to me, then we would do something else. At that time, Augustana College had a little school sitting on their property, and it was called Model School. And the students would work at the school. They would teach while they were learning. And I'm sure that we had a principal or teachers that were already teachers to supervise. But my dad said, we'll take you up there. So if I remember correctly, he drove us up there the first day. And I really liked that school. The teachers were so good. I don't know where the kids came from. I suppose just around the neighborhood. But I went to second grade and I skipped a half a grade. I think that might have been in third. But they said that I had gone to Mark Twain and evidently was ahead of the kids that went to model school. So I got to jump ahead. I don't recall Eileen doing that, but she went there too. But we had to walk then, from then, and it was quite a ways if you figure 41st, and Augustana is on 33rd, is it? And then probably over to the east a little bit, maybe, or to the west. I don't remember. But we walked there. And I went there for a couple of years until we moved over here. And I changed to Longfellow then. That would have been by my 4th year. So I had kind of a, I don't know what you'd call it, but I would not go back to South Sioux School. Well, I didn't even drive till after my first husband was killed. So I bought my first car when I was in my middle 30s. I never tried to, well, my husband tried to teach me a time or two, but he didn't like the way I tried to drive, so he finally said, no, I'm not teaching you how to drive. Some of my friends I know didn't drive, but I think there were some that probably did. I never thought much about it. I just knew I didn't drive and I didn't want to drive, I guess. I never learned to cook at home. My mom, when I was little, she did it, and Lorraine probably helped her. And then, so I never really took an interest in cooking. And then as I got older, somebody was around. Dad did, after my mother died, Dad did a lot of the cooking. He, at one time, his family ran a cafe in Iowa, so he knew how to cook and bake. And when we moved to Milwaukee, he did most of the cooking and baking. I never had to learn. So when I got married, I really did not know much about cooking. And the first place we lived in was Grandma and Grandpa Smith, his parents' folks. So I think she either would do a lot of the cooking or she would help me, try to teach me how to do it, because I did not cook. I don't know, I just learned along the way, and finally I got, at least my husband didn't complain about my cooking, so it must have been all right. Well, I was married and had my children by then, and my middle 30s was about when my husband died. So I was just a typical housewife. And then Connie was a baby, so then I stayed home with her. Of course, I was learning to drive then, and there were times where we would go visiting to maybe a girlfriend's house or something. Otherwise, I mainly took care of her and cooked, did the housework, all that. Other than that, until she was 5, then I went to work. So then I sort of changed from a housewife to a working girl. So I may have changed then, because I know there were a lot of different circumstances, changes between being at home and working all day. You know, so many people remember exactly what they were doing when they heard that. I really don't remember, but I think I was at home because it seemed like I had the television on and I was really interested in it. I just could not imagine somebody going from here to the moon. So that really struck me as something I never thought would happen in my lifetime. Well, I think the same way. It was a major happening, and I felt terrible about it, and there was nothing I personally could do about it, but I thought it was just awful that somebody would do such a thing. I was a teenager during some of that time, and it never struck me too much. I knew the war was on and the boys had gone to war, but it didn't strike me as anything to really worry about. Now when I think of it, I think, well, I should have been involved a lot more. But until Merle came home, and I knew him, we wrote once in a while to each other, but I never really thought I would marry him. But he came home from war and started asking me out and that. And then I thought a little more about it, but I really think I should have been much more interested than what I actually was.